Going live. I've hit record.
I have also pressed the recording red button.
All right. It's Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are talking about the fantastic Hypnospace Outlaw. All right. Anytime you're ready, just go for it. With your tech opening bit.
Okay, it's working. Okay, there it goes. All right, so these days stuck inside. It's getting colder. I'm like double stuck inside, I guess. Like
Yep. Like I got one last hike in this weekend because it was weirdly warm on Sunday, like freakishly warm, and I feel like that's the last one.
Yeah, it's like it used to be. Well, try not to go outside, but it's warm. I'm gonna go outside if I can, kinda, right?
Yep.
Now it's like I don't even want to go outside. It's cold. So I've been, all the stuff that you have lying around your nerdy house, those nerdy things that you never get around to, like the old Apple computers you bought or acquired somehow in the late 90s and then have just carried around with you and kept in the closet and never used. It's like, let's have fun with those, right? We like computers. So I managed to get all sorts of, there are all sorts of new things available that weren't available a long time ago to make these old computers easier to use, right? Like things to adapt micro SD cards to speak to, old Apple floppy interfaces and things like that.
Yep. I remember how trouble it was to mess with those Apple things like back at RIT when you were messing with them.
Yep. So the Apple II GS is actually doing great. The memory expansion card that it already had in it works. It has 1 megabyte of RAM. It seems that all of its parts work. The screen is actually pretty unbelievable. It works super well, and the image is super clear. That old crazy RGB monitor that has to have like a special thing. It's not VGA. So yeah, everything's good in that department. Just the keyboard's not, the most fun to type on. The Mac Plus is like a up and down, right? So the Mac Plus is like, is an old Mac, the kind that, had the built-in monitor, right? With the floppy under it, right? And it totally works. Don't need to mess with the floppy drive because like I said, I got other tools to, avoid that. I'm pretty sure it would be broken anyway, and I don't have any floppies that would work in it to begin with. The screen is actually kind of got an unbelievably clear image. It's working so well. And the mouse works, right? Oh, the Apple II GS problem is that I have a mouse for it that works, but it doesn't have a ball. So I'm like sticking my fingers in the.
Oh no, that is suboptimal.
I'm working on solving that one.
You gotta hard boil an egg and then get the ball out of there.
Yeah. So
fun fact: if you open that thing up, you know how that thing works? It's actually an optical mouse. Those rollers are not. What do you think those rollers are doing? Let me make sure the Apple mouse does this.
Because a piece of metal with a gear.
No. Well, it is, but that piece of metal is spinning a wheel that has markings on it, and there's probably a light in there.
I haven't opened the mouse to find out.
I'll check if the Apple II mouse was actually that, or
this is like a third-party mouse.
Oh, so you don't have the original? Yeah, most mice from that era were technically optical mice because that was the only way to make it accurate. You'd have like...
This computer's from 1986.
Yeah.
Right, anyway. The point is, the Mac Plus, I upgraded it from 1 megabyte of RAM to 4 megabytes. In order to do that, I had to take out the motherboard, right? Swap for Sims, I guess. I don't even know if they're DIMMs or whatever. They're memory sticks, right?
Just mms.
Yeah. I don't know what they are. I bought them on the internet. They worked. They were cheap. They were like a couple bucks. But there was a resistor on the motherboard. And if the resistor is in, the computer thinks the memory chips are small. So I had to remove the resistor. So I basically unsoldered one of the two halves of the resistor and pulled it out. So it's still stuck in there, but it's not connecting. So that way, if you ever want to put it back in, right, you can. It's still sitting there. Then, right, so in the back, I have this thing that, converts from SCSI to micro SD. The problem is that the Mac Plus does not provide what is known as SCSI termination power. So I don't know how many people know, but SCSI, the old SCSI interface.
Having flashbacks to my RIT computer.
right? It was used by mostly PCs. I mean, mostly by Macs, but also some PCs.
On PC, it was the like ultra high performance, extremely expensive option.
Right. You could use it for printers, hard drives, various other devices. And the way it worked is you could actually daisy chain several devices together. So you have one SCSI port, and you could plug cable A to device 1, and then you connect from the back of device 1 to the back of device 2, and then from the back of that device to your printer, to the back of another, right, and so on. And you set these little dials on the back of all the devices, so you choose which number they are. So this is device 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many it can support. And then all these devices will be able to communicate with the computer, even though at the end of the day, all of those signals are going over what's basically one cable, right? It's got a lot of pins on it.
It's a big parallel. Yeah, it's inside. There's a bunch of like parallel nonsense, and I used to know intimately all the details of how SCSI worked, but
yeah, this one only has 15 pins actually, but it's still the same functionality is still there. So like if your printers, if you got 3 hard drives in a printer, when you print, right, those electrical signals go all the way down all the hard drive cables and back, and the hard drives are doing stuff at the same time, right? Anyway, so SCSI termination power, there was some electrical phenomenon. I don't fully understand it, but the way it's been described is that the signals would like bounce off the end of the chain, and you would get sort of like an echo off the end. So there needed to be some sort of termination, right, to prevent that echo from bouncing off the end of the chain of cables and like messing up all the data. So some devices would provide termination power and some would not, right? So if, for example, you have a Mac Plus here, the Mac Plus does not provide it. So that means that like you plug a hard drive in, that hard drive has to sort of do it itself, right? To have a terminator at the end of some kind. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. So this little device, obviously, you can plug in a USB cable to it to provide that power, to get the termination. But it would be much nicer if you could just stick this in the back of a Mac Plus and be good to go, right? With not having to go get your micro USB cable and another power outlet or whatever, a battery or something, right?
Yeah.
So in order there happens to be, right, the Mac Plus, if you take the motherboard out, right next to the SCSI connector in the back, there are these 2 holes where it looks like something should go and nothing's there. And it just so happens if you take a diode and put it in that spot, then suddenly you'll have SCSI termination power. They added this feature to the Mac Plus and never enabled it with a single diode. They could have just put one diode in every Mac Plus. They didn't. And back in the day, the Mac Plus cost like a fortune, right? To buy one new. They couldn't add one diode to it. It's like, come on, I bought 50 diodes for like $2. I'm sure they were more expensive in 1980s, whatever, but not that expensive. So I did that. That worked. The memory upgrade worked. Everything worked. It was so great. This Mac Plus was running like quite amazingly. And also quite amazing that you can get the Mac Plus to run Mac OS like 7.5, which came out and which is like many, many years newer than the computer itself. It really makes me think about how old iPhones run the newest iOS, how it's sort of the same thing. Like the super old Mac would run like a Mac OS that came out so many years afterwards. The problem is the keyboard's not working. I don't know why the keyboard's not working. I don't remember if it was broken before or after I did all this stuff.
Oh no, that's the worst. Because if you knew the keyboard worked at some point, then it's a different calculus. Then did it work?
Right. So I took my meter, my multimeter. Luckily, if you open up the keyboard case, there's easy access because the keyboard connects to the Mac Plus with like old telephone RJ10, right? And it's only 4 wires, 5-volt ground, clock, and data. That's it. 4 wires for the keyboard on an RJ10. So the problem is that there's basically no other keyboards in the world that like do RJ10 except this one stupid keyboard for the Mac. Right? That's the only one. There's a lot of adapters out there that will let you use this old RJ10 keyboard with another interface. It's like you could use it on a newer computer. There aren't a lot out there to use a PS2 keyboard. You have to like make something with an Arduino in order to use like a PS2 keyboard and convert it to use the RJ10. It's also not standard RJ10. You can't just grab a phone cable. I think the wires don't line up straight. I think they're the pinouts are different on either end. I forget. But anyway, I tested the pinouts and everything seemed right. So I'm thinking the keyboard might be broken, but getting a new keyboard for this is actually not the cheapest. So it's kind of sad that like I upgraded this Mac Plus all the way, and like without a keyboard, it kind of sad. But once it works, we can play Carmen Sandiego or some shit.
Yeah, the problem is we can't even do like we could set up a show where we like fuck with it and do something semi-live, but we can't even like media. I can't go play with this thing.
No, what's really sad is like you just open up an emulator, it just works better and way faster. The emulator is just better in every way. It's like, how much reason is there to actually use the old computer versus the emulator?
Yeah, I guess the only reason to use the old computer is for the aesthetic of having the hardware there, or if you're doing some sort of hardware verification of some behavior that's different.
Yeah, something like that.
Or in a
But,
museum.
I actually set up VirtualBox. I installed Windows 3.1 in VirtualBox, and yeah, it's just way better than having a DOS PC lying around. I don't need to go buy a 486.
All right, so there's a lot of gaming news, like a ton, and we're not going to talk about everything.
It's been so long since we did a Tuesday show, and it feels like there was so much gaming news, but I can't remember anything that happened before today. So let's just talk about what happened today.
Yep, or things that happened recently. And there's a cluster, there's like 3 stories, well, there's really like 5 stories, but I want to condense them all into issues around Cyberpunk 2077.
Right, so I got to start with saying that like this game was announced, and it was like such a huge announcement, and people were so hype over it. But I'm like, wait a minute, this is based on Cyberpunk 2020, the tabletop RPG. I thought that was like an obscure thing that only tabletop RPG people and like Netrunner players knew about.
You are correct.
The original Android Netrunner Android Netrunner was based on the original Netrunner, and the original Netrunner used the intellectual property from the Cyberpunk 2020 RPG, right? But I actually don't know people who've played it. It's like people know of it, but like if people have played it, they don't talk about it.
I mean, the only cyberpunky RPG I ever played was 2nd edition Shadowrun, and that is
Shadowrun I've heard of people playing. Cyberpunk is like a thing people know of. All art tabletop RPG people know about, but people didn't play, right? You know.
Yep. But
so I was very surprised to see that the to my knowledge first ever video game based on this property was like AAA mega game of like untold proportions.
I mean, I honestly didn't even think about it as being based on that property, nor like that didn't even cross my mind. All I thought was cyberpunk is a very generic term for a particular kind of aesthetic
Cyberpunk is a very generic term, but to my knowledge, the only thing that like titles itself as like Cyberpunk the game is that. Like I'm pretty sure if you tried to make another game called some Cyberpunk, like that was the name of your game, that like R. Talsorian would come after you with the trademark lawsuit or whatever.
I mean, that is
especially if you did Cyberpunk followed by a year, right? Because the original was 2020 and this one's 2077, right?
I just want to point out that is the Wikipedia page for this game does not mention this at any point.
Okay, interesting.
But
it's not
what you miss is that it wouldn't have mattered either way. The hype machine for this game was running at possibly the maximum I have seen a AAA video game studio run since like the era of giant ARGs.
Yeah, I've seen, we've seen big games get big hype, but like
Keanu Reeves doing the stuff like this game pulled out all the stops.
But also this game was it's on every platform.
Well, there's a big asterisk next to that now.
Right. Well, it wasn't an exclusive. I don't think it's on Switch, is it? I don't think so. But it's on PC, Xbox.
It'd probably run better on the Switch than it seems to run on the PS4.
Maybe, but the point is it's on like everything, right? So they're trying to get as many people to buy this game as possible. It's not some exclusive, right? So yeah, huge deal. Then while it was being developed, there was all sorts of controversies coming out. They were crunching the team big time. Right.
Yep. That's one issue that we need, that in general, like it came up in this game for a lot of reasons, but the video game industry is broken as shit in the AAA space in particular.
Yep. There was also issues where not only were they crunching, they kept delaying. So it's like, if you're delaying, right, everyone's already buying the game, just pull a Half-Life 1. It's ready when it's ready. Why do you got to be like this?
Yeah, well, especially because we're in a climate now. We're in a climate now where if you announce a AAA game that appeals to like a particular subset of gamers, you know exactly who I'm talking about. If you tell them a release date, a scary percentage of them will plan their lives around that date, which, cool, you can be into a thing. But then, if that date changes, they will not only flip out, but they will start harassing your developers. They'll start sending you death threats. Like, it's a problem. Almost to the point that, like, if I was a AAA studio, even if I didn't have the philosophy you and I have of do it the way Valve release games, I wouldn't give release dates just to avoid that harassment.
Yeah.
Like,
So anyway, so they delayed the game and they crunched the team at the same time to make this game. And so the game finally comes out, right?
yep. And there were a number of controversies along the way that we talked about in the past as well. Well, don't even get into those.
The release of the game was rocky. It wasn't just like, here it is. It like some people got it, reviewers got it, but reviewers only got the PC version, right? So reviewers only got the PC version. They didn't get the console versions.
And it turns out the console versions don't fucking work.
Right. Well, the reviewers gave it bad reviews. Well, not bad, but like 7s.
They gave it.
It's like,
They gave it accurate reviews, and of course, remember I referred to those gamers earlier.
Yeah.
If you give any game that they're excited about a score of less than 9.8, they'll send you death threats.
Right. So it's like there's these people who, for some reason, have never played this game. I assume they can't possibly have anything wrapped up in the intellectual property. It's not like it's right. I don't understand. They were just like somehow had become in love with this game where they're like getting super mad that someone gave it a bad review, insulted, even though they've never played it.
Now think about that. Sending a death threat to a developer for a game,
reviewer.
Yeah, well, to a reviewer and a developer. The developers for the delays, and the reviewers for talking about the game. Of a game that you have not played, that does not have a franchise history, that isn't even out yet.
It does have a history, but I just question whether the people who are sending the death threats have any involvement in the history whatsoever.
So, but one of the issues that happened specifically was they wanted this wide release. So they released it. You can technically run it on an Xbone, like an actual Xbox One Xbox or a PlayStation 4. And reviewers didn't see that, as far as anyone can tell. And people bought it. They played it on those consoles. And it went about as well as you would expect.
PS5 or an Xbox Series.
Nobody has a PS5. PS5s are... The only thing harder to get than a PS5 is a 3080.
No, my sister has one.
I mean, also...
She's like, look what I got. And I'm like, who cares?
I mean, actually...
I have a computer.
I could... If anyone... I could get a PS5, like, anytime, but all I want is a 3080. If someone out there can get me a 3080, I'll do swapsies.
Oh, you'll trade a PS5.
I'll even pay the difference between the MSRP. But a lot of people got PS5s because they had connections. But PS5 is not nearly as sold out as 3080s are, obviously. But there were a lot. We live at a.
PS5s.
It is not. We would be remiss to not point out that you and I and the people we are friends with in the gaming industry are more connected in a sense that it is easier to get something like a PS5 through.
No matter how many people I know, if I wanted one, the way I would get it is just go to a website like everyone else and just go to Amazon and be like, buy and wait.
Nah. A lot of people I know got it by talking to someone who worked at a company who had extras or pulling shenanigans.
I would not do that.
Getting a review console, pre-streaming edition of the console. A lot of streamers got them early.
Nexigo, PlayStation 4. Oh, they don't have any on Amazon, so...
Yep. But yeah, anyone out there, if you can get me a 3080, I will get you a fucking PS5 and it'll be a good time. So now they're issuing refunds and apologizing and vowing to rebuild trust after they basically had to admit that this game just does not run on those old consoles because they are radically underpowered for a game of this scale, just built the way it was and designed the way it was. Like,
I don't think there's... And they delayed, and the game still, the console ports... basically are buggy and crashy and non-worky.
Well, a lot of it is just that the consoles are not powerful enough to even run the game. So, like, textures are way downgraded, view distances are bad.
Game, you just make your software more optimized and also scale back on your, right? It's like, yeah, my computer is weaker than someone who has a 3080, but if I bought this game, which I never will,
you turn the settings down.
I can turn the settings down.
The problem is, Scott, your computer compared to any current generation console, like not the PS5, like let's say that's next gen because they're coming out right now. your computer is infinitely more powerful than a current generation console.
That's true, but a console release, at least in theory, right, is like consoles historically have always been less powerful than PCs, but that's because when you release software for a console, that software is usually running like exclusively, right? You don't have like 10 web browsers open eating up
Yeah,
any resources.
like look at an NES game and then look at a PC game that was released the same year.
Right. And also, because you're releasing a game for the console, you know exactly what chips are in that machine, and you can optimize your code, at least if you bother to go through this effort, and because you have to, right? If your game doesn't need it, or if you don't have the budget or time for it, you don't do this. But you can optimize specifically for those chips that you know are in the console and you know will work, right? And make the same software just run better, even though the hardware is using less power and is weaker, right? But whereas on a PC, you would make a PC release of your game, unless you want to release the source code of your game and have everyone compile it on their own computers, you're releasing an exe file, and that exe file has to run on who knows how many different computers with different chips in them, AMDs, Intels, who knows what the fuck people have in their computers.
Yep.
It has to work. And so, we have things to make this better than it used to be in the DOS days, where you had to like, code for every sound card and make people choose their sound card.
Do you have an ad lib?
Yeah, now you just have DirectX. It's a lot easier, but you still have to, you can't optimize as much, and therefore, since this exe is less optimized, people need a more powerful video card, right, in order to run that software, a more powerful CPU to get the same performance, right?
So all that aside, the thing I want to talk about the most is something that was just kind of ridiculous and egregious. So Cyberpunk 2077 has kind of extreme epilepsy triggers.
Oh, yeah.
Which
apparently, I think people are speaking about one part in particular.
When you put on the glasses in the game,
a character puts on the glasses. It's at least based on the description. It sounded like a character was putting on the glasses they live style.
Yeah.
The glasses were very blinky blinky.
But they were blinky blinky. It's not even just like they were blinky blinky. They happen to be blinky blinky in a way that is particularly extra dangerous to photosensitive people. Like the kind of thing that style guides say, avoid this pattern. If you're going to do blinky blinky, don't use red and white.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was, on Twitter, I don't know the people who were tweeting. They could have been fake, obviously, who knows? But the people on Twitter were like people with epilepsy who were saying, yeah, the blinky pattern was basically almost identical to the blinky pattern in the glasses the doctor has when the doctor needs to make you have an epileptic seizure on purpose for doctor reasons to make sure that, right? And it's like, it's almost like someone took those almost as if someone took real life, make someone with epilepsy have a seizure tool and turned it into a part of the game. Like, you would not be, like, we don't know if this was malicious intent, but like, you would not be based on
malice and ignorance are indistinguishable when they cause harm.
Right, but based on the descriptions I read, you would not be perhaps out of line in being very sus. It's sus. We'll say
now it's
sus.
even worse than that. There was no warning in the game except in the EULA. The game didn't even, most games, like every NES game had a giant warning on it that was like, hey, if you have epilepsy, don't play this game. Like,
yeah, I mean, Nintendo loves to put warnings. They even have warnings like, hey, don't break your TV with your Wiimote, right?
Yep.
They always have health and safety warning on fucking.
But like, there was no warning in game, and even if, let's say, like, there are use cases for that kind of effect, but if you know anything, you don't make the effect like this specific pattern that is particularly dangerous. This implies that nobody in their entire team making this game of over 500 people at any point talked about epilepsy or accessibility or anything. Like, this is a egregious omission.
To get it done. They were just crunching to get it, done, right? They weren't. All those other concerns go out the window, right? That's what happens with that sort of culture of work. Is like, just get it done. We care about making money first, right?
Yep.
What can we cut away? Right? We can cut away. Man, who cares? Don't spend time optimizing the console. Don't spend time on the accessibility, right? That's not needed to put it on the store shelf. Don't do it. We're working around the clock, etc. Right?
But even worse, they they not only not warn people, there's no option to disable it. Like it's like we're not saying that games cannot have effect.
They did put out a patch to do something about.
Yeah,
it.
they're patching and doing stuff, but this level of omission from a company like a project this big is particularly egregious. This isn't some like indie developer in their basement making something for fun who doesn't know better. Like there's no excuse here.
Who spent all this money on marketing, obviously, instead of actually development.
Yep.
Right. Make everyone want to buy a thing. Who cares what the thing is, right? Gabo. So the final nail for this, at least the final nail I'm aware of, and I don't know exactly which content is causing these rumblings, but I have seen and read many rumblings. So, and from people I do know who they are, so I'm inclined to believe them that there is significant transphobic content in this game.
Oh yeah, not there's that. There's also the fact that the game is kind of like pro-capitalism. Like it's literally the opposite of Cyberpunk.
That's not what Cyberpunk is, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's like, I know, I only know these meta things about this game. So basically, my opinion beforehand, right, was like I was saying, I didn't know people who cared about Cyberpunk 2020 or knew about it except tabletop RPG people. Why is this AAA enormous, right? And my feeling at the time of the big announcement was like, maybe I'll buy this in a Steam sale one day when it's $5, right? It's a one-player game. It's timeless. I don't need to play it now. It's not multiplayer, right?
Yep.
Whatever. My feeling now is I will never play this game even if it's $0. Fuck this game.
Yep.
Right? This is obviously the biggest shit show. We're going to be, it's not a Duke Nukem Forever shit show, but it's almost worse because Duke Nukem Forever was just mismanagement.
Well, it's also...
This is actually, harmful.
Yeah, well, it's also almost worse because it is still pretty broadly popular and it's doing fine. Like they're going to make their money.
Oh yeah, they're making big money because
Duke Nukem. A lot of people lost money because of all those problems. Like that was a different situation. Here, they are like this game is going to continue to reward the broken aspects of the games industry at the AAA level. Almost to the point I've said this before on Geek Nights. I've said it in panels of hacks. I'll say it again. I don't think AAA games can be made ethically in the current world. Like full stop. I think it's impossible. And that resonates with that tweet. You see, it makes the rounds. Like every few months, it makes the rounds. The tweet that says something like, I want to see shorter games with worse graphics made by people who work less hard. And I'm not kidding.
Nope, I agree with that.
Like the game we're about to review.
Yeah, and it's more fun to play Link to the Past randomizer than think about Doom Eternal, right? I played Doom Eternal. That was fun.
Yeah.
Right? I paid, I did buy it when it came out. Yeah.
Well, I bought it when it came out too, and it was good. I liked it.
A lot of fun with the previous Doom,
Yeah.
and the previous Doom, and the previous Doom, and the previous Doom.
Doom game comes out, I'll play it. Like,
But you know what? I played it once, I beat it, and I was done. Even Breath of the Wild, I played it longer than I played Doom Eternal.
Yep.
But I played it, I beat it, and I was done. Link to the Past randomizer. A game that's 20 years old, right?
Of course, part of that, as you get older, your predilections become increasingly esoteric.
I'm just saying, Link to the Past randomizer is 30 years old, I think, almost. Link to the Past is almost 30 years old. The randomizer isn't. But
God.
That gets more replay value than any of those things, right? So
you saying that somehow made me feel even older than when you brought up SCSI, and I remembered buying a SCSI card to make my new cable modem work because previously the cable modem was plugged into an ISA SCSI card and it wasn't fast enough. ISA, anyway. In some other news, we can go through this stuff kind of quickly so we can get to the main bit, but Nintendo, there is a ton, well, a relative ton of little indie games having remakes or releases on the Switch.
Yep, Nintendo had a big announcement today, as of this recording, December 15th, and they announced a pile of indie games they're releasing, and they also added some more Super Nintendo games to the Super Nintendo app and whatnot. But anyway, so the games they added were Among Us, obviously, right? The biggest hit of 2020. I think that's a great game to have on Switch. It's an easy port. They're gonna make money on that. Probably selling it for $5, I imagine, because that's what it costs on Steam. Maybe they charge more for it on Switch. I don't know.
No, it's $5. I just checked.
Okay, good. But yeah, it cross plays too. So if you maybe, it's like, do I need this? Will I buy this? Probably not. But you know what? I have Among Us on my PC. Maybe you want to sit around with your friends and play Among Us. You don't want to use your phone. The Switch is probably a better experience.
Yeah. Here's the one problem I have. I can see like that use case. I can see like maybe I just want to lay on the couch and play Among Us while I'm on the Discord instead of doing it like on my PC. Usually it's not that case because I'm the one hosting the game. But when I'm at a con, I imagine for a second, hey, we all have Switches. What if we just busted out an Among Us while we're all like sitting in line for the Omegathon? But
Yeah, you could do that now.
I've never successfully gotten the Switch to play a local multiplayer online Wi-Fi or local multiplayer Wi-Fi game at a convention in my entire life.
This would obviously use the internet, right? You would all need.
They say local Wi-Fi.
Oh, they added that. Good job. We'll see if it works.
4 to 10 player online or via local Wi-Fi.
So next to this, Spelunky and Spelunky 2, obviously legendary platformy roguelikey-ish game, right? If you don't know Spelunky, well, you know, it's on Switch now.
They're fun.
Yeah.
They're hard. They're really hard.
Grindstone is a game that I played when I had a free trial of Apple Arcade. I played it on my iPad. It's like a little kind of puzzly game, but it's not like microtransaction-y, right? And it's sort of like one of those almost like a pattern recognize-y one. Do you remember that what was that one on was it on the GBA or the DS? I think it was DS.
Remember that game that was on the GBA or the DS? Yes, I know
it was
exactly.
On the DS, and I think it was like a Might and Magic, and there was like you would line up the monsters of the right color.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It was it had a name. It was Heroes of Might and Magic like special something.
Something like that. But the point is, it's not. The puzzle isn't like that puzzle, but it's that same kind of game where you're optimizing like your next
Clash of Heroes, I think, is it?
Yeah, so like you're this little Viking warrior dude, and like you optimizing like what your next move is going to be on this grid of like monsters and things, right? So it's actually a pretty fun game. I got bored of it after a while, but it occupied my pre-bedtime gaming for like a few days. A good toilet game, I say. Grind.
Ooh, I kind of want to play Clash of Heroes again.
Yeah, why not?
That game was actually real good.
Calico is a game I saw at PAX East, I think. Maybe I saw it at MagFest also. I don't remember. But it's basically a game where you're building a cat cafe, right? So it's a little Neko Atsume-ish, but not microtransaction-y, right? And if you look at the trailer, it's like you're going around the woods riding cute animals and then arranging your cafe. This game seems to be like way good. I might get this game. And then the long-awaited, right, Super Meat Boy Forever that we have seen at various conventions in its, pre-release state pretty much forever.
Yep.
I think it's apt that they called it forever to, like I said, it's much like Duke Nukem Forever. It's in development forever. But yeah, it's finally a real full-on sequel to Super Meat Boy. More new Super Meat Boy.
Thousands of levels and many different characters. So.
Yep. It's going to come out on December 23rd, and I think the only console it will be on at the time will be the Switch. I think it might be on PC at the same time also.
Switch is perfect for that, so I can play forever trying to finish a level so I can watch the replay and go to sleep.
It will not be on Xbones or PlayStations, at least not immediately. It'll be on Switches and I think possibly PC on December 23rd this year. For real. It's actually, done. Here it comes. More meat.
Yep. And there's a bunch of more games in the list. You can check it out.
I don't know. There's a lot of other games on the list, but I don't know anything about those. So
one of them looks pretty good. A Happy Game. I don't know if I've heard of it or not, but it's described as a psychedelic horror game set in a bizarre dream world. And the screenshot.
Sure some of these games are great. I just don't know them.
Yeah, but the image of it looks particularly good and weird in a way that jives with me.
Very nice.
The Switch is also getting an anime watching app to watch Funimation, but not Crunchyroll anime. But that doesn't matter because Crunchyroll's gone. We'll talk about that next week on Wednesday.
Yeah.
There's so much news everywhere.
Yep.
Wait till next Thursday. We could do a whole show just on what Disney announced.
We don't need to do that.
I don't know. There's like 10 more Star Wars shows. Literally 10. But yeah, the app will let you watch anime on your Switch if your Switch is your device. I feel like this is mostly aimed at kids who don't have an HTPC or a PC or a tablet and want to watch anime at home around their house. And I think we can just jump right from that into things of the day. But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
What was my thing of the day?
It was a it was a yeah, okay.
So my friend, we were having a discussion, and someone linked this to me, a friend. There is a YouTube channel called Ordinary Sausage, and my thing of the day is just going to be one of their videos, although the whole channel... I watched some other videos on the channel, and they were okay, but this one was the best one. And what this channel is there is a person, and this person has sausage-making equipment, right? They have, sausage wrappings, right? They have a grinder with which to grind up things to put into the sausage. And they have, I guess, I don't know what the device is called, a sausage press, where you squeeze, you put your sausage wrapping on the end of the pipe, you squeeze whatever your filling is, and it goes into the sausage, which you can then twist off and seal. And then, of course, they have a stove with a frying pan on which to cook sausage. And all they do on this channel is take things that are, some more unusual than others, and they put them into the sausage, right? If it needs grinding, they grind it. If it, needs mushing, they mush it, right? And they just make sausages of various things. And here, they make a sausage just filled with oil.
It is
just oil.
The best part about the video is when they pour oil in the pan to then cook the oil sausage.
Yep. So for another example of video on this channel that was actually a less ridiculous one is they made a McRib sausage. They took an entire McRib sandwich, bread and all, ground it, squeezed it in, and actually they gave that 5 stars. And I could understand, yeah, that could be a good sausage.
It'd probably be better than just a McRib.
Yeah, maybe. But that's what you have here. And also, I just want to give this isn't thing of the day worthy because it's sort of cheating, but I just want to mention this video. There's a video how to make fried water. What they did is they took water and they used some sort of this chemical that you get from algae. It's like something sodium alginate, I think they said, but there's other varieties, other different alginates.
Oh, to semi-solidify the water?
Right. What it does is it allows you to form a membrane around the water. So basically like a little water bottle, right? That's sort of like goopy. It almost looks like a jellyfish blob, right? And then they took that jellyfish blob, floured it, egged it, breadcrumbed it, right? And then fried it in oil, and without getting it to pop, and thus making fried water. And I thought that was mildly interesting, but also sort of cheating, right? And also when they ate it, they sort of didn't just pop the whole thing in their mouth. They squirted the water out. So that's why they're not thing of the day status, because they're
yeah, the oil sausage commits.
The oil sausage is much more powerful.
And terrifying. Do not eat this.
Do not. But McRib sausage is...
Yeah. So, a while ago, one of my things today was the Worth It Kids channel, because they made, other than Big Top Burger, they've made many recent delightful, memeable animated shorts like Palpatine's Journey. Just solid channel, making great content. And all their content, though, most of the things they uploaded had sort of a similar aesthetic, style of writing, style of humor, and that's cool. Say the animation looks similar, I'm down for that. But that meant I couldn't just keep using them as the thing of the day over and over again. It goes against the GeekNights code. Today, they uploaded something very different from what they've done up to this point. It looks like stop motion animation, and it's a music video to just a straight up song, Dried Up Old Bones by Tom Willett.
Okay.
It's a skeleton in the desert. But it's particularly upscotch.
Were they commissioned by this person to make the music video for?
Oh no! If I am correct, if Tom Willett is who I think it is, he was in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if it's the same Tom Willett. I did not do any research on this. The video
that's not a person I know about.
But the video is extra great because it's just he's singing this country kind of song about being a bones dying in the desert, and all his friends come to check him out, like the desert spider, and there's a cute desert spider kind of dancing next to him, and his friend the snake, who's dancing, and is clearly a rattlesnake who is warning him away, and it's just really cute and fun and good, and you should watch it. In the meta moment, can't go anywhere. We're still here.
Obviously, I have not received the book signal.
The book signal.
There in the sky.
Yeah, because I was playing Hypnospace Outlaw. I was also working on some stuff.
So yeah, most of the stuff, I said earlier in maybe weeks ago that yeah, I'm gonna have this huge vacation. Well, obviously, I think I also mentioned the huge vacation was decreased, but after this Friday, the huge vacation is back on. I'm gonna have I think 16 days of no work in a row. That includes the weekend days. I will accomplish something.
We'll see. I actually have most of next week off because I had a bunch of vacation days I have to use before the end of the year or I lose them.
What I have accomplished is there's Advent of Code, which is an annual computer sort of coding sort of competition thing.
Friendly competition.
I'm just live streaming myself solving these coding puzzles every night until I guess Christmas, which would be the last one. So
I should send you like a piezo to stick on your keyboard so we get some ASMR Scott.
Well, I've actually worked hard to get rid of the keyboard noises.
Ah.
But if you go to my YouTube, there's a few of the first 3 or 4 or so I uploaded to YouTube. The rest the Twitch VODs might still exist, might not, who knows. But yeah, you can come and see me do those usually every night-ish Eastern time. Whenever I'm done working, I get around to it. So that's a thing I'm doing right now. And also I'm still streaming myself biking, but I haven't biked in a little while. Maybe I'll bike today after dinner. We'll see. But the problem is I need to do the puzzle also. I think that's sort of what's
hard mode. Do the puzzle while biking.
It's too hard. I can't do that.
So yeah, watch our stuff on the internet. We live stream this. There's like 20 people watching this live stream right now. There's a pretty rocking chat going on right now. Join our Discord. There's links on our website. Read our GeekNights community code of conduct because it is, I think, very good and also very specific about things you are not allowed to do in the GeekNights community.
So come and participate in our community and just make sure that you abide by all of those behaviors and do not conduct yourself in a way contrary to the code and everything. You'll have an awesome time with awesome people.
Yeah, there's good people in there.
All those think about all the parts of the internet that you do engage with community wise. They're all shitty, right? Well, we're trying to make a good one over here. So, it'll be better with you in it.
So let's talk about Hypnospace Outlaw.
All right. So again, at PAX long, long ago, maybe a MagFest, who remembers?
This is one of those games where I saw it, like I walked over and I looked at it, and all I thought was, I don't need to even play this now or talk to those people. I'm just going to play this game someday when it is released.
There was a series, I can't remember, I don't know which ones came first or anything like that, but there was like a trend of games that where the user interface of the game looked like an old computer.
There were multiple indie games that did this effectively.
Right. Well, the oldest one that I personally remember playing was Uplink, which didn't really look like an old computer, but it was still a game where you're ostensibly, you are using a computer that has an interface that the uplink interface wasn't anything like a normal Windows.
It was like movie hacking, like you were playing a movie hacker doing movie hacking, busting into the Gibson.
Other notable games like Emily is Away.
Oh yeah,
looks exactly like AOL Instant Messenger. It's obviously AOL Instant Messenger for Windows 95, right? But it obviously doesn't say Windows 95 on it or AOL Instant Messenger on it. But Emily is Away is like a visual novel. But you're basically chatting with people and making dialogue decisions through what looks like AOL Instant Messenger. So Hypnospace Outlaw is about this sort of never really existed, but yeah, it totally existed, late 90s online service, much like Prodigy, AOL, CompuServe, right? However, it is none of those. Right? It's sort of all of them and none of them.
Yeah, because it's also like an internet simulator where you have like a computer that you're running with like browsers and stuff on it.
You have a computer, right? You can run Hypnospace software on this computer. But the thing is, Hypnospace is not just like a normal internet service from the late 90s, although it is the late 90s, and it has late 90s vaporwave aesthetic to it.
Yep. But it's less vaporwave and more true to what that aesthetic was in its time.
Both, I think.
Yeah.
But Hypnospace is an internet service you can only use while you're asleep. So you would go to sleep. It's like, time for bed. Like you would go about your day, right? Which isn't part of the game at all. You go about your day, and then at the end of your day, it's time to go to sleep. And it's like, well, you're going to waste 8 hours of the day if you just sleep like a normal person, right? So plug in Hypnospace and your body will sleep, but you can have productive hours doing Hypnospace shit. And
it's kind of like how I actually used computers, because I would go about my day, be like midnight, and then instead of going to bed, I'd sit down in front of my computer, I'd dial into like WoW or whatever, and I'd be online all night.
But imagine if you also got sleep, right? So in Hypnospace, right? Realistically speaking, you're not actually going to sleep, right? Your character is going to sleep into Hypnospace.
Yeah.
Right? But you're sitting there and you have this mouse, keyboard-based user interface that looks a lot like a late 90s online web service.
Like, to the point, like, it's so spot on. Like, there's a browser. It's basically got Winamp installed as an application.
Yeah, it's like they put a lot of effort into this, making it complete. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you can only click on a few things and it's mostly just pick, a background.
Everything works. Like, when you start the game, it does a little like BIOS load, and if it says like hold B for BIOS, if you do that, there's a fucking BIOS.
Yeah, it's like, there's like a search engine. You can search. You can find things when you search. You can click links. They work.
You can install software.
You can install software. You can remove software. You can get viruses. You can play music. You can download more music and add it to. It's like they have just created so much content that it feels like a complete internet service, right?
Yep.
So how is this a fucking game? Isn't it just like sort of like a sandbox where you explore all the content that they made?
Had it been just a sandbox, I think I still would have enjoyed it.
Oh, I probably still would have also for quite a while, but not as long as if it was a game, because basically the game, on the one hand, reveals to you a great story, but also forces you to explore the content that they've created, right? So by playing the game, you're sort of forced to follow this path along which you are seeing all the great stuff that they made.
Yep. You're basically playing someone who, for whatever reason, volunteered to be a moderator in Hypnospace. So you have a special version of the software.
In some ways, it's almost like Pokemon Snap, only you control the vehicle, right? Where it's like, they've created all these wonderful Pokemon for you to see and enjoy watching them, right? Along the sides, all these web pages, songs, places in Hypnospace, right? Emails, things for you to see and do. And you're going along enjoying them, right? But you're charting your own course, but you also definitely have a target that they've given you of where you want to get to, right? And what's really amazing is that all this content, even though it's all kinds of varied random stuff, it really feels like the drama and the social aspect, right? There's these fake characters. They're obviously not real people, right?
But they're real enough.
Yeah. It's like, there's the Chowder Man, right? And you go to the Chowder Man's webpage, right? And it's like, then you'll see a comment on another webpage from the Chowder Man.
Yep.
Right? It's like, there's all these characters that they've made up who are the other people in Hypnospace.
Like, the first job you get as a moderator is there's a report of this kid, Zane, who's harassing people. So you're like, all right, I'm going to find him. And you find Zane's webpage, and it's amazing. But then you fuck around and like look for like, all right, who is he harassing? What's going on? You got to kind of like do some detective work. And you find all these other people who have interacted with Zane in some capacity. And you can solve the puzzle. It's almost like a puzzle game. Like, the puzzle in this one was find some reason to ban Zane. Like, that's what they want you to do. And it's trivial to find a reason to ban Zane. You find his secret webpage and he's a little piece of shit. But then you find all these other people and you find all this other interesting stuff that's also kind of relevant to the Zane situation. It's also hard to blame Zane because Zane is like such a
punk kid.
He's a punk kid, doesn't know better. And the people he's harassing are also kind of harassing him. And it's like this,
right.
They're all teenagers.
Right. This is what I was trying to get at, is that all this content they've made has a second level, and has multiple levels, but the second level is that it's, even though it's varied random stuff, right? It's you can see, it feels like you're a part of a real internet community that is developing, and you're experiencing the drama between the people, much like you experience drama if you're the part of something like a live journal community or a Tumblr community or any of the, a forum on the web somewhere or some IRC channel. And you have characters that you know based on their internet names and the drama that plays out between them and their different personalities. This is totally believable. You could have put this on a web page and people would believe it was a real forum.
Yep.
And it wasn't just a piece of art, right? Imitating life.
Because it is the thing that is so amazing about this game is like Scott and I grew up in the era where the internet was like very much like this. And
pretty much.
This game for us is also deeply nostalgic. Like I would interact with things and see things that I specifically recognize as touchstones of the way I use the internet.
I had real web pages that if you could somehow find them.
I made some pages that look a lot like pages in here.
Yeah, the oldest web pages from my old days that I still have are like from 2000. If you could find my 99, 98, 97, like earlier web pages, you could have just pasted them into Hypnospace Outlaw as
no changes. No changes.
You could find my GeoCities page. You could just paste it right in there.
Man, when Scott and I first became friends in RIT, I remember we showed each other our GeoCities pages because GeoCities was still up.
It was, yeah.
If only we'd thought to back that shit up.
I mean, I tried.
Yeah, I mean, I could have just downloaded the HTML.
I do have backups going pretty far, but not just a little bit past. I can't get.
Yep. But
anyway,
for someone who did not grow up in that era, like you might miss, like there's references to like specific technology things that you might not notice that wouldn't matter. But for a younger person who didn't grow up in that world, I think this game is equally compelling because it's almost like a simulation of a previous era. It is very true to the feeling. Like if you play through this game, you will feel the kinds of things that we felt when we were young interacting with a very different internet. It's very true to that feeling. It's very true to that experience. And that is kind of amazing. Like that shows that the people who made this game really understood like what the internet and what services like Prodigy pre-internet were like.
So yeah, there is it is sort of a visual novel situation where there is a greater plot, right, that you are discovering.
It's a pretty good plot too. Like
it does have an ending at some point, although after the ending, you obviously can load up Hypnospace and just sort of, poke around all the content, to see everything freely as you would like. And because of the way the interface is, there's tons and tons of hidden stuff, right?
Yep. Like,
but it's so free. It's and so fully featured.
But the gameplay loop, like, if you want to think about like what is this, what are you doing in this game? It comes down to you're a moderator. You get emails and dispatches from like the people who run the company who are like deal with this report. Like, go find this problem. There's some malware someone uploaded. Like, go find it and like tell us where it is. We get rid of it. And you can click on links. You can follow people's stuff, install their software, and you can just search, type a word, and you can solve a lot of things with clever human intelligence. The game has like no rails really, except a few very specific rails based on certain plot events, like when you get to the image map.
Yep. And also, depending on certain choices, right, the game might be easier or more difficult to you, right? Like if you get a virus and it'll be bothering you all the time.
Yeah, but like the way to solve an early puzzle is to kind of get a virus on purpose.
Yep.
Professor Helper.
Are you going to pay money for the virus remover? It's like you can buy software.
Yep.
In this e-commerce, like you can get money in the game and then go and there's things to buy with the money. Right.
But there's like moments like I won't spoil stuff about this game because there's a lot in here. But what I will say is that Professor Helper was obviously malware. But
no shit.
The task I had was find like anyone who's using this Cash app that like we don't allow on our platform to transfer money and get rid of it. And it's obvious that this malware is using that Cash app to steal money from people. So I install the malware. And then the malware gives me pop-ups that link to the Cash app that let me find the people who are scamming. But now I've still got malware. So I reported the malware, which I was not tasked to do. Like, you could report malware. I reported it. They rejected my report, and the CEO of the company starts bitching at me for reporting it because he's trying to make a deal with that company.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's very true in this game that I found really fun is that the two people who run Merchantsoft, like the company that runs all this, they are, to a T, exactly how people who ran those 90s internet startups were. Like,
it's a very Steve Jobs, Wozniak kind of duo,
Yep.
right?
One
And
of
it
them
also
writes in
incorporates
complete
other-
sentences and has like a modicum appearance of ethics. And I'm saying a modicum here. There's a lot going on, not to
Right, well,
spoil
there's
anything.
Right, that's the tech guy. There's a technical guy.
Yep.
The technical guy clearly has some sort of morals and ethics, right? Wants things to work a certain way, etc. And then there's the business guy, and the business guy is just like, get it done, right? Do this.
But the business guy types like CEOs typed for real in that era, and many still
They
do
were-
today.
The people who made this game did an amazing job. They are really masters. Right?
Yup. And the game also has a nice, good meta commentary. Like the very first task you get is they tell you about this character, and they're like, "There's effectively like copyright claims about this character, so go ban anyone and delete anyone who's using this character without permission from this company." And it's this ugly goldfish thing. So start poking around, and of course, the first thing you're gonna find is this like 6-year-old girl's fan page with the fan art she drew, and you feel real bad about it as you delete her page and get her in trouble. Like that's the kind of stuff this game makes you do, or asks you to do, and maybe you approach the problem a different way. And there's a lot of paths to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say more without spoiling things. Like the game's not that long. It'll take you 5 or 6 hours to beat it, seeing most of the fun stuff along the way. Maybe like 7 or 8 hours if you like really poke around and like dig into side quests. I can't imagine this game being more than 10 hours long, even if you like read every page.
Yeah, no, if you just want to beat the game, it will not take you long at all. In fact, there was a speed run of it at the previous GDQ that I think was like, they found out it was a world record like after the fact.
Oh, someone in the chat's already like, Gumshoe Groper is not ugly.
So yeah, it does not take, it doesn't take long if you just want to beat the game. But if you want to explore deeply all the content and like really read everything and scan everything and dig deep and find secret stuff, then you can spend quite a bit of time with this, and you can always go back to it. And I think they added more to it since I've played it. So I might go back to it and have another look and just enjoy, the various songs.
When I found a site that had pirated music and I went to it, it looked like exactly like the website I used to download MP3s from before Napster. And when I clicked on a song, it was a broken fucking link. All of the links were broken, just like it was back in the day.
Yep.
You should this game is I would say if you are an enthusiast of interesting game experiences, you should play this game. Do not think this game is only for people who are nostalgic for this era. That is the opposite of true. This game will let this game will let you experience that era in a very true way.
I think pretty much anyone who is a person of the internet is a person who will enjoy this, even if you're not a person of games, right?
Yeah.
I think this is really just an entertaining piece of software for any internet-y person, right? A person who engages online, right, will enjoy this. A person who doesn't understand internet and is, not a person who reads tweets or, does any internet communities, I can imagine you might have a hard time connecting with what this game is saying. Right?
Yeah, I can imagine a pre-internet person, someone who grew up before the internet even existed.
Right, nothing to do with computer skills. You'd be very good at computers and just not a person who socializes online or engages in internet. You got
to get into the mind of a 13-year-old punk kid to solve some of these puzzles.
Right. If you're not the person who shares things online or, consumes things shared by others online, reads comments, that sort of post comments, this game might not, ring anything for you, right?
I guess the last thing I'll say is that one of the things I really appreciate is that the only way to learn how to play this game is to start playing it, and you have to run like the tutorial software in the game on your game computer, and it is identical to the tutorial software I had to run for a lot of things in school through much of my childhood, right down to the CG animation of going through a door.
Yep. All right, so Hypnospace Outlaw came out a while ago. It's an A+ game. I don't know what it costs. It's worth it even at the full price, I would say, but I did buy it in a sale at some point, and I'm sure you can get it in a sale. I'm pretty sure you can get it from Steam or itch.io and maybe other places too. I think it actually come out on Switch. I think it even came out on Switch.
I think so. I think you're right.
I think it came on a lot of platforms now. So there you go.
All right, we're done.